You're listening to the 100 Awesome People podcast. I'm Justina LeeStolz. And on today's episode, we talk to a woman who's traveled the world as a documentary photographer, capturing moments designed to have maximum social impact. Please welcome Mandy Lancaster.
Alrighty, so on the show today we have Mandy Glinsbockel. Thank you for coming in to talk to me.
Thank you.
Took us a little bit to coordinate, but we made it, so I'm super excited. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you from? Where'd you go to school? All that kind of stuff.
Okay, small things.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, I am a documentary photographer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a community engagement coordinator for the Elizabeth Fry Society. I'm an artist. I'm an advocate for women.
But where are you from?
A storyteller. I was born in Vanderhoof, BC,
Okay.
but then actually grew up in the Okanagan Valley.
Oh, neat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like high school and all that kind of stuff here?
Yep, I stayed through high school and then I left. I really wanted to get out of the Okanagan.
Yeah.
It was too small for me. I wanted to experience living in other places and see the world. So yeah.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in Winfield, actually, and well, it's now called Lake Country.
Yeah.
But
Peter Greer?
Nope, George Eliot Secondary
George
School.
Eliot.
Yeah.
Peter Greer's elementary, yeah. Okay, and then, so when you left Kelowna, like, where did you go and what did you think you were going to do?
Well, I initially did not stray too far from home, actually. I initially moved to Victoria, BC, and then I went on to move to Calgary, and then it was while I was living in Calgary, after I was done school, that I started traveling and went to India, but really kept Calgary as a home base for a long time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What did you end up going to school for, like post-secondary?
I did a diploma in fine arts, and that's where I really, even in high school, I found that I had such a love of photography. Mm-hmm. And so after my diploma in fine arts, I finished school in Calgary at the Alberta College of Art and Design and did my degree in design, majoring in photography.
Nice. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And did something in that take you to India? Is that how you ended up there? Or how did you end up going to India after that?
Yeah. So, ever since I was a kid, I was so interested in other cultures, and I really always felt that I wanted to travel. And I really grew up, my family instilled a real sense in me of the importance of diversity.
Yeah.
And unity in humankind in general.
Yeah. Good.
And
good principles to have.
So yeah, when I was living in Calgary and I had finished photography school and I was kind of dabbling in commercial photography, but it just never felt quite right. Mm-hmm. I decided I just had to step outside the box and take a trip, and I didn't know where I wanted to go, but India kept coming up, and so I booked it with no real plans.
Wow.
I just got on a plane and went by myself for 6 weeks.
Wow.
And I wandered.
Yeah.
And I volunteered. I stepped into a ton of incredible volunteer opportunities over there. Yeah. And that's when it really set me on my path of documentary photography, because as soon as I started photographing the people and the stories I was seeing, it just all clicked into place, and I knew that that was the kind of photography I was really meant to do.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure you probably saw some very interesting life stories that are very diverse and different than what you would experience here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, and so then after India, you were there for 6 weeks. What made you come back to Canada, or was that just that was how long you could be away?
Yeah, at the time I had a job that I really loved in the photography industry, and so I really could only take a 6-week leave of absence.
Yeah.
So I returned to Calgary at that time, and it was tough coming back, actually. I went through a lot of conflicting inner turmoil, having seen and experienced a lot of the things I did when I was in India, working with people in such vastly different circumstances, and
Was there a life lesson in that, like in that transition of coming back to Canada, having just experienced a very drastically different world, and then coming back to a Western first world country?
Yeah, I think definitely coming back solidified for me that I knew I could never again do any kind of work in my life that wasn't making a social impact.
Yeah.
There just is no room for it in my mind.
Yeah, totally.
So that definitely set me on a path of really incorporating even more of a humanitarian vision into all of the work that I've done since.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And so once back in India, like in a timeline scale, when did you come back to Canada? What year was that?
I believe I didn't actually go to India until I was 27 years old. So it took me a while to kind of figure out the kind of work I wanted to do and initially step onto that path. And then when I returned to Calgary, I was doing a lot of other freelance editorial work at the time.
Yeah.
But I didn't step outside of Canada again and continue to do that international documentary work until 2012.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When I went to Kenya and Tanzania.
Wow.
So,
And so was it specifically through like documentary style photography and that took you to Kenya?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I went to Kenya with a very specific goal of continuing to use my photography work to do some personal storytelling, but also to see what kind of impact I could make for nonprofits that are doing such impactful work, but just don't sometimes have the means to really visually tell their stories that need to be told. Okay. And so I went with that specific purpose in mind.
Very cool. And who did you end up working with while you were there? Like what came of that trip?
I went for 3 months, and initially the project that I went to create completely fell apart.
Oh no.
And the team of people I went to work with, that working relationship did not come to fruition. And we ended up going our separate ways within a really quick period of time.
Yeah.
And I was, kind of like left sitting at a cafe in the middle of Nairobi with no plan and
curious place to be.
No backup. So I just did what I had to do, and I reached out to other people who were doing incredible work in the city, and I ended up photographing for a grassroots organization in Kawangware, which is, I believe, the second biggest slum there, and doing some really incredible youth empowerment projects with an organization called Keto International.
Cool. That's awesome. See, as they say, classic cliche is one door closes, another door opens. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's very true. Definitely. If there was anything actually that I took out of that trip that felt the most important, it was always have a backup plan. And actually, even beyond that, bigger than that, is just trust your own intuition, because I had a lot of feelings that things were not going to work out in the way that I planned, but I pushed those to the side. Yeah. And so now I'm much better at listening to my own intuition and addressing that when it comes up.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, definitely important to follow your gut, and some, there's always like those little, like, it doesn't quite feel right in the back of your mind. Definitely listen to those. They usually are right for a reason. And so after Kenya and Tanzania, sort of what year was that you went on that trip? So that was 2012?
Yeah, that was in 2012. And then, once again, I had a pretty hard time when I came home. Yeah. Really trying to navigate the waters of, do I want to fully step into this kind of work and this kind of nomadic life? Yeah. Or do I want a life with more of a home base in Canada? It was just a lot of self-reflection and a lot of searching and seeking at that time. And it was not until a few years later, in 2015, that I decided to take the leap again internationally, and I traveled to Nepal for a period of 7 months following the 2015 earthquake.
Wow. That is definitely a tough time to be in that place, but I'm sure also very enlightening is not the word, but eye-opening to see what happens after a natural disaster catastrophe in a place. What was your goal and purpose going to Nepal?
Going to Nepal, I had reached out in advance. When the earthquake happened, I really felt called to go, and I really felt called to do what I could to help and to use my photography to capture some of the work being done there for the purposes of fundraising and awareness and having more help go to the area. And so I had reached out to an organization in advance, Aura Freedom International, and so I flew into Kathmandu and I met them there, and they do some incredible work with anti-trafficking work and really empowering women and girls. And so I worked with them in a few earthquake displacement camps where they had set up female-friendly spaces and women's literacy groups, and really with the vision to keep women safe and empower them and try to give them the resources they needed to move out of those camps.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. And so you were there for 7 months, so I'm assuming like things back in Canada sort of had to go on hold and this became your full-time thing.
Yes, I actually, prior to going to Nepal, I moved out of Calgary. I ended that chapter, and I put most of my belongings into storage, and I was full-time freelancer at that time. So when I went to Nepal, I did not have an end date. I really was going to just let things reveal themselves, and I did not have an end date of when I needed to come home. So
kind of neat freedom to have.
Yeah, it really was. I was really ready to see how things would develop and have the freedom to navigate that as it happened.
Very neat. And so what was it then 7 months in that said, okay, my work here is done, let's go back to Canada?
So while I was in Nepal, I didn't spend the entire 7 months there. I had some incredible opportunities come up, one of which was to go to Sri Lanka for a month to work with a freelance writer based out of Finland who was doing an incredible story on interviewing Tamil women about their experiences and the disappearance of their loved ones during the civil war in Sri Lanka.
Wow.
So I produced that story with her, which led to a lot of other work, some of which was doing a story with her back in Kathmandu, Nepal, for UNICEF. And so we returned to Nepal together after also spending some time together working in India. And so it was a lot of jumping around during that time. And at the end of the 7 months, I just truly felt ready to come home. It just felt like the right time to me. And that's actually the time when I decided I was ready to live closer to family. So I relocated to Kelowna.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how you got back to Kelowna. Okay.
That's how I came here. Yeah.
And so what year was that you came back to Kelowna?
I believe that would have been 2016.
Okay. Yeah. So just a few years ago.
Yeah.
Nice. And then in coming back to Kelowna, where has your journey taken you here? So there's been a lot of things for sure, but
yeah, absolutely. You know, life is wild. It just continues to surprise me. But I came back here with continuing to work as a freelance photographer, and very quickly upon living in Kelowna, actually met the man who is now my fiance.
Aww.
And he was running a project at the time called the $1 Million Bus.
Yeah.
And so,
for those of you who haven't heard about the $1 Million Bus, check out the episode with Ryan Lancaster. That is the man she is referring to.
That's right. I believe he's interviewed by you as well. Yeah, so he was running this project that was just very much in line with the photography work I loved to do, benefiting charities and doing fundraising campaigns. And so I, at the time, was a freelancer, and so I flew out east into St. John's, Newfoundland with him and spent 6 months living on this school bus.
Retrofitted RV-ish school bus.
Yeah, living on this school bus. Utilizing my photography and video skills to storytell and to raise money for 3 different charities and run different campaigns, which was such an adventure and really fulfilling. So
yeah. And so when the bus had to be parked because it was wintertime and you guys came back to Kelowna, which was probably 2018-ish?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so somewhere around that time you guys landed back here.
Yeah.
Then what happened? what career or adventure did you jump into next?
I didn't want to stray too far from the type of work I love to do. So I, this whole time, have continued to do freelance photography and editorial work. I did a brief couple of month period with a local tech company with a very heartfelt mission, but stepped out of that after a few months and am now working at the Elizabeth Fry Society in the role of community engagement. So storytelling plays a huge part into our fundraising initiatives and helping people know what we do.
Yeah, and what is it? Like, for those people who don't know what the Elizabeth Fry Society is, can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, we focus on providing support and services for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. So it definitely ties into the women empowerment work that I have always been the most passionate about. We definitely also help male survivors, but it's vastly more women than it is men in this case.
Yeah, interesting, very interesting. And so your role within that, what do you get to do that sort of feeds the photography side of what you do and also helps with the society?
Yes. So this is something that I'm currently navigating, actually, and that I'm really excited to step more fully into, because for the past 3 months since working for the society, I have launched a public awareness and fundraising campaign called Speak Out, and it's really focused on awareness of sexual assault issues in our community and also fundraising for trauma counseling specifically for sexual assault. And visuals of this campaign, the campaign is very socially driven, so photographs and visuals are very important, but actually I'm in the midst of creating a project that will tie more closely in the photography work and the portraiture that I love to do.
Yeah, very neat, very neat. Exciting stuff on the horizon.
Yeah.
And when you look back at your travels and your life and all the adventures you've been on, was there or is there a moment that comes to mind that you think it was either embarrassing or frustrating, but it led to a lesson where ultimately now looking back and with hindsight 2020, you can look and say, oh yeah, that was embarrassing or frustrating at the moment, but here's what I learned out of that?
I mean, I can say in a nutshell that I have had so many experiences, especially in the travel work that I've done, that felt like huge failures at the time. And so there was a ton of frustration within that. Any kind of vision that I had for the way things were going to go, it never ended up that way.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I kind of feel like that's just a life lesson in general, is that you just can't be too attached to the outcome. And for me, I feel like now I've gotten a lot better at knowing that I don't have everything figured out, and that actually I don't even know my best, what is necessarily best for me. There's something larger at work pushing me along. And so there's some comfort in that, because I've kind of gotten a bit flowier about things, and kind of let inspiration come in instead of trying to force it.
Yeah.
But absolutely, there were many projects, like I said, along the way that I set out to create that did not end up making their way out into the world for a multitude of reasons. And actually, to this day, there are a lot of photographs that I've taken that I still have never put out into the world, that I'm constantly in the back of my mind thinking, this is for something, and I just haven't quite figured out what yet. Like, there are still those stories that I think will come forth, that it hasn't been time yet.
Yeah, I'm sure between the Elizabeth Fry Society and your own continuing adventures into social enterprise and documenting impacts that are happening in the world, there'll be a place and time for all of those photos to find a home in the world.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you could go back to younger you, maybe when you were still in Canada or in any of the trips that you've been on, is there a piece of advice that you would give yourself that you wish somebody else had told you, or you would wish you had known then?
I think a huge one for me has been to ask for more help. Honestly, I from a young age put so much pressure on myself, because I knew that I felt that I had such a gift to offer the world, and I still do, but I often felt like I needed to walk that path alone and figure it out on my own without asking anyone for help. And to be really frank, I think that comes back and is tied to just a sense of self-worth and questioning that many times. Yeah. And so if I could look back now and tell my younger self anything, it would be, you're deserving of help. Yep. You can ask other people. Other people want to help you. You don't have to be afraid to ask other people along the way. Yeah. Because truly, there have been so many times throughout my career that people have said, you're so talented, continue forth, do this, make this happen. And the reason that I haven't stepped forward at certain times has just been because I haven't myself believed that I had what it took to step forward. Yeah. And so, yeah.
That's good advice. Yeah. That's good advice. I feel like a lot of people are in the exact same boat. I certainly know, especially with this project, I have learned that there are a lot of opportunities to learn, and you can go down a rabbit hole of learning or trying to dig the trench all by yourself. But there are many people just standing a few feet away who, if you tap them on the shoulder, they turn around and gladly help you. So absolutely. And I also think the older I get, the more I realize nobody has it all figured out. Nope. And anyone in my life that I have ever looked up to, it's incredible actually. I will share, when I was younger, I believe it was after 2012 when I had come, actually no, sorry, I'm being very rambly, but it was when I had come back from Nepal. I went to New York for a Photo Plus conference, an exposition, and had the opportunity to meet so many internationally recognized photographers who I really admire. And all of them were incredibly humble and showed me and my work the same respect that I showed them about their work. And, it was very humbling, but also made me realize we are all, it was, as I was asking them questions about their work, they were asking me questions about mine. And it just made me kind of realize
this whole idea we have of people who are higher on the totem pole than us is actually not real.
No, it's not.
And that was a revelation to me, and it actually still is a revelation to me, because I sometimes catch myself thinking, oh, I couldn't possibly talk to that person or reach out to that person. They're so much more experienced than me. They've done this, they've done this. And then I often forget about all of the work that I have done.
I know. I'm like, if you listen to the last little bit of you sharing about your story and all the different places you've gone and the things you've seen. I mean, you said at one point, I didn't go to India until I was 27. Some people never go. Like, the fact that you got to go at 27 is mind-boggling. Like, the experiences and the places you've been and the people you've seen and the people you've talked to are experiences that many people will never have. And so, yeah, I think it's so important for everyone to remember that it's an equal playing field, and we're all running around doing whatever, but it's not that somebody's running on higher ground than other people, that we're all running on that same plane and trying to figure out where we're going.
Absolutely. And honestly, when I look back, I have had such incredible opportunities to work with so many people and organizations and businesses making such a huge impact in this world. And the fact that I've been given those opportunities is just incredible. But I don't feel that I feel that I have so much further to go. Even when I tell people that I have photographed for UNICEF and World Vision Canada, and I often get this feedback like, oh my God, well, you've made it. But that is not the way it feels. I think we're all constantly on a journey that is always evolving.
Totally. Oh yeah, totally. And I mean, if that was your goal in life, was to photograph for UNICEF or World Vision, then yes, you made it. But I feel like your vision and your striving is to make even greater impact and continue to make greater impact. So yeah, that's definitely a nice check off the bucket list of photograph for really impactful organizations. But there's still so much to learn and so much more impact that you'll make in your lifetime.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's the funny thing about goal setting in general is we create these goals and think to ourselves, well, once I achieve this, then I will feel that everything is done, that it's fulfilled. Yeah. And that is never the case, because then when we achieve those things, all it does is create a knowing within ourselves that, well, I'm actually capable of so much more, and now I've learned that I want to do this and this and this, and it just grows. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I mean, if we only had one end goal, then when that was accomplished, you'd basically just die. That would be it. That'd be over. Oh, I did this. Now the world can end.
Yeah.
But no,
and you'd be really bored.
Yeah, you're just constantly. I think it's important, sort of like what you've already said, to have this overarching vision of, okay, whatever I do in my life is going to have social impact, and I want it to have a humanitarian aspect to it.
Yes.
But the projects within that, or the smaller goals within that, or targets, are, okay, shoot for these people, do this, involved with this project, go to this place. There's an overarching theme that has different targets along the way, so that you're never just reaching for one ultimate target, and when that's done, then you lose purpose in life. It's having an overarching theme with many different little targets along the way until, eventually at some point you do die.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's interesting because for me, even though photography has been the tool that I've used in doing all the work that I've done, for me, it actually was never about the photography. I just always knew that the camera was a tool that I could use to connect. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think that's what I care about the most in my work, no matter what I'm doing, is feeling like I'm connecting with other human beings and I'm helping them to feel seen and empowered and loved. And I think actually at the end of the day, that is all that matters to me.
And so with the Elizabeth Fry Society, or even on your personal goals and that, what are you striving for in the future? What are those little targets that are coming up in the near future?
That's a big question. Yeah. Because I think I'm still figuring it out. I will say my vision in the work I'm doing with the Elizabeth Fry Society is, because it's just baffling to me that the reason a lot of people in our community are not getting the help and healing they need it's strictly funding related, and that is just heartbreaking to me. So my goal is to make our programs fully sustainable, so that when somebody comes to us and says, I need help, we have the means to help them, and they don't need to be put on a wait list. They don't need to be turned away. And so that's my ultimate vision in that work.
Cool.
And in regards to my other work, it's a constant evolution, but truly I have some goals for this coming year, part of which is really sharing more of the work that I've done that I've kept really close to the chest, for fear of not sharing it in the right way.
Right, yeah.
Which is an illusion, because all that has really done is stop me from sharing a lot of things that holds value. So
and there will never be a right way for everyone. There will always be a critic, a judge, a naysayer who's like, well, I think you shouldn't say these things, or you should have said it this way.
Completely.
But the majority of people, I think if you go out into the world and share things into the world with a positive and good intention, that the majority of people will receive it with that intention. And like I said, there will always be that one person or those like five people who band together to jump on the other wagon. But most people are going to get on the wagon that says you're doing something good and awesome, and the message you're sharing has a good impact.
Oh, well, doing any kind of work in the public eye, especially in the world of social media, you know that you're going to be met with criticism. But I will say, I feel like artists are the worst kinds of perfectionists. And I'm a perfectionist through and through. I can go back and forth on something for ages when really it could have just been put out into the world just fine. So
what do they say?
Something I'm working on.
An artist's work is never done, it's just published at a certain point. And at some point in your near future, totally on the personal side of things, you're going to get married.
I
am. Yay. It's exciting stuff. To that guy, that $1 million bus guy.
We're really excited. We're getting married in September of 2020. So that's really exciting. We are in talks to bring the bus back to Kelowna, which we're very excited about. Yay! So there's a lot of balls in the air, but all really exciting things.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. And what is a fun fact or weird fact that nobody would know about you?
Well, I feel like the people closest to me obviously know this about me, but I'm a huge Disney fanatic. A lot of people are, right? But honestly, when I was a kid, it was my dream for so long to be an animator for Disney. And I would watch every VHS tape of every Disney movie, and I would pause at different points of the movie, and I would draw from the screen.
Oh, wow.
And I could do this for hours on end. And so now, obviously, I have a bit of a different dream. I'm not pursuing being an animator, but I love Disney movies, and it's quite often, actually, I'll embarrass my fiance here too, but it's quite often we'll put on Disney music in the mornings and kind of just like dance around the kitchen and let things just kind of let things flow and start the day on a really positive note. And I'm not even kidding you. The days that I do that I play any kind of Disney music, I just go into the world with such a more optimistic view of things.
That is amazing. That is life advice for anyone out there. If you want your day and your week to be amazing, just start with any Disney soundtrack.
It's true. It's true.
That is fantastic. That is an awesome fun fact about you. Well, Mandy, thank you so much for being on the show today. If you guys want to check out what Mandy's up to, I'm sure you can probably follow you on Instagram.
Absolutely. I'm on Instagram under Mandy G Photography, and then I'm also running our account through Elizabeth Fry Co.
Yeah, so definitely check her out. You can see the photographs that she's taken, or you can connect, and if you feel so inspired to donate to the Elizabeth Fry Society or get involved that way, I'm sure you can reach out to Mandy in that regard as well.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in for today's episode, and please do leave your comments and reviews. If you enjoyed what you heard, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and share it with a friend. If you know someone in the Okanagan who has an awesome business or project with a great social impact, please nominate them through the website. Until next time, folks, stay awesome.